Hello everyone, this is Yana Smakula for SimonsSTM.com. Welcome back for another Yippee For Yana episode. In this video, it's a spring episode, a spring video. I have 4 spring themed and Easter themed cards to share with you. I'm also going to show you a simple way to mass produce projects if you're needing to make more than one card. The stamp set I'm working with today is called Ear-resistibly Cute. It's one of the new sets from Simon, and I also have a set of coordinating dies. This is a larger 6x8 stamp set, and it features a bunch of adorable bunny images and some cute spring and Easter sentiments. I love all of the images in this set, and I couldn't decide which bunny I wanted to use. So instead of deciding, I just went ahead and stamped a bunch of bunnies onto cardstock. Here I have my Mini Misty stamping tool and Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock. This is my go-to paper for stamping and coloring, and I will be doing some coloring later to add, color to these cute little bunnies. I'm using my Memento Tuxedo Black ink. This is alcohol marker friendly ink. I will be coloring these using Copic markers. So I need to use the type of ink that is not going to bleed when it comes in contact with alcohol ink. I realized that my ink pad was a little bit on the dry side, and I thought it was time to re-ink it. I hardly ever show this in my videos, but I think it's actually very important to remember to re-ink ink pads. So if you are stamping an image, if you're stamping, let's say, an outline using your go-to black ink, and you are finding that the impression you're getting, the black outline, is not as black as you would have liked it to be, it's time to re-ink the ink pad. So grab that re-inker and add a little bit of ink to your ink pad. Try not to add too much. I've been there. I've done that. I have added too much ink to my ink pads in the past. So it's best to add a little bit of ink and then just use a little scrap of paper or like an old credit card or something to help spread that ink around the ink pad. I was just using a scrap piece of backer paper from foam adhesive to help me spread that ink. And with my ink pad re-inked, I was able to stamp the rest of the bunnies onto the paper. Next, I'm going to do some simple coloring. These are simple images. Of course, you can be very detailed with your coloring. I like to do simple things that are easy to copy, easy to mass produce, easy to replicate. So my coloring is going to be very simple today. I'm using W5 as my darkest gray. Also W3 as my medium gray and W1 as my lightest gray. So the bunnies are going to have a little bit of gray to them. I will also use a 0 marker, a colorless blender, to help blend the W1 marker pretty much into white. I didn't want to have white bunnies. I actually wanted to have light gray bunnies, and using the warm gray W markers worked best for this. I would advise you not to use the cool grays C markers because in the end that just looks not the best. I also used E00 and E000 to color the rest of the bunny faces and the inside of their ears. I did not add color to every little section, to every portion of the bunny image. Instead, I simply added shading to my image, leaving the center of the bunny face pretty much white. I also used RV00 to add a little bit of blush. We have those little blush areas outlined on the bunny face, and a C9 marker to color the nose black. Each bunny is decorated with some sort of an embellishment. Some bunnies have flowers, some have bows. There's a bunny with a hat. I'm not using that bunny, but there are little accessories, cute little accessories that add a ton of charm to these bunnies. I decided to use mostly pinks to color these, and I started with the RV14. That was my darkest pink, RV13, my medium pink, and RV11, the lightest pink, to color the bows on my bunnies pink. I also colored one bow on the boy bunny green, and for that I used YG67, YG17, and YG03. There's also a bunny with the flowers, and for that one I used Y35 and Y15. I used coordinating dies and cut my bunnies out. They're so adorable. Next, I started planning my cards. At first, I wanted to do white card bases, A2. So these measure 4¼ by 5½ inches. And I wanted to add cream cardstock panels onto the card bases and then have the bunnies and the sentiments. You will later see that I changed my mind. I changed this design a little bit, but for the most part, it's the layout that we're going to have on these cards today. So I have placed the bunnies onto the card bases, and next I'm just going to select a couple of sentiments. So I have everything pre-planned for my card. As you can see, I've separated my work into sections, if you will. First, I stamped all of the images. Then I colored all of the images. Then I cut all of the images out. Then I created card bases and card panels for the card bases. Now I'm selecting sentiments for all of the cards. If you work this way, it's especially helpful if you're mass producing projects because you're spending less time, but in that time frame, you're able to make a lot more cards. I like to do this from time to time, especially if I'm needing multiples. And with this stamp set, it's super easy to make multiples because you have those different adorable bunnies. Now, whenever I pop things up on my cards, and I knew that I will be popping the bunnies up, I like to back my cardstock up with another layer of cardstock. I used Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock for the images, and because I used 80 and not 110-pound cardstock, I like to use 110, but I'm all out. I'm waiting for my order to come in. So I used a 80-pound cardstock, and to make it a little bit sturdier, I die cut the same images from blank cardstock. It was just some scrap paper from my stash, and I used glue. This is barely art glue to glue the two layers together, and this gave me a sturdier die cut in the end. I'm using foam adhesive squares from the back and adding them behind my images to pop them up on my card. I'm not gluing anything down yet. I'm still in the process of planning. I also stamped a couple of carrots from this stamp set. You have this cute carrot image. There's also an image of a flower and some hearts that you can add onto your bunnies. And to color the carrots, I used the same greens that I used for the bow on one of the bunnies. So YG67, YG17, and YG03. To color the carrot orange, I used YR18, YR15, and Y15 or Y35 in some cases. I typically struggle with orange, and I can never get the perfect orange shade, especially if I'm coloring carrots, but these colors seem to work best for me. I used the coordinating carrot die and cut those carrots out in my die cutting machine. With that done, I started to work on my sentiments. So here I placed the image of the bunny on the panel. These panels are all cut to 3¼ by 5 inches. So when I foam mount them onto a card, I'm going to have a little bit of a border around the frame. And I'm placing the image of the bunny onto the panel. The bunny is not adhered yet. It's just there for placement, and I'm stamping the sentiments. I'm using a different type of ink now, so not the same memento that I was using to stamp my bunnies, but Versaclear Black. I love to use this ink for stamping sentiments as it gives me a very dark black impression. With that done, we can begin assembly. I love to add dimension, as you guys might have already noticed, and I've already added foam adhesive squares to the back of the bunny die cuts and the carrot die cuts, but I also want to add dimension to the panel that is going to go on top of the card bases. For the panel, to pop it up, I'm using foam sheets from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm using double-sided tape from Alt New to adhere that in place. I've switched gears a little bit, and I have a couple of card bases made from colored cardstock and then also one white card base. So I have a few pink card bases, a fog card base, and a white card base to have a little bit of color and variety. By the way, all the supplies I'm using to make these cards are listed and linked in the video description below and also on the blog. I added a die-cut carrot pretty much onto each of my cards, and then I used the little hearts. These also come in this stamp set to stamp them onto the background just to add a little bit of interest. I used Perfection for the green hearts and Versaclear for the black hearts. So here's a look at the projects I have for you today, created with the Simon Says Stamp Irresistibly Cute stamp set. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this project and feel inspired to create. Love you guys, and I hope to see you again next time.